So, this presentation is called Game and Farmer, as you can see, free-range game development. My name is Joel Green. I am an audio designer primarily, but I'm currently working on learning as much coding and scripting and stuff as I can so I can start making my own games. I've been making games for about 5 years now, generally on the large scale side of things, so most recently at BioWare on Mass Effect and Dragon Age franchises. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it's kind of a work-life balance thing, I guess, but just a slightly different approach on it. This is a real quick little presentation, just 10 minutes. So lately I've been thinking a lot about where we make games. A lot of people love living in big cities, especially Vancouver. I've always loved it too, and I'm definitely not here to try to convince anyone otherwise. But this talk is aimed more at people who, for one reason or another, are looking for something a bit different. I think in general this tends to happen more as you get old and start breeding. So if this talk isn't relevant to you now, maybe it will be in the future. Okay. So that's me and some logos and Shepherd riding a dragon. Sweet mashup. Okay, so this is a good example of some concept art. I think it's from DA3, and this is the kind of thing that, you know, as an audio guy, this is what I would get from the artist to start working with. And, you know, I would spend my days, you know, long hours just living in these beautiful worlds, right? These things that we're creating, and, you know, making the sounds of all the details of elven caravan back there or whatever's going on. And, you know, really loving that part of my job, just living in these wonderful, beautiful fantasy environments. But I found that there was kind of a growing dissonance over the years in the what would happen when I walked outside and ran into that sort of a thing. So I'm not meaning to pick on Edmonton or BioWare at all right now, because they're a rad company and really good people, and I would, you know, strongly recommend going to work there if you get a chance. But this is more just my experience in general with the kind of dichotomy between these beautiful worlds that we're creating virtually, and then, you know, maybe living in places that, you know, in environments that aren't quite as inspiring, or, you know, are just kind of filled with a lot of concrete and cars and stuff. And like I said before, some people are totally cool with that. This is just more my personal journey. So that led to last year, my wife and I, well, we got married last year. That's our Minecraft wedding cake, you can see. And thanks. So we basically left and took some time off last year to just travel around the world, and we moved to Vancouver Island and lived in a rural area for, you know, the last year or so, and really found ourselves just loving it, you know, being surrounded by natural beauty constantly every day. It just was a real change, you know, from sitting in the office all the time. And obviously it was great, we weren't working a whole lot, but you know, more importantly, it was just, I found that being surrounded by that kind of environment was just really inspiring. So that was awesome for a while, and then I basically realized, you know, okay, it's time to go back to work, make some money, and realized that my only options were to move back to the city. And that was kind of depressing, because we had really grown to love this environment. And so I basically made the decision this year to try making games in the woods. So I kind of just had an epiphany, you know, and it's a really simple thing. I'm sure most people realize it, but as indie developers, we can live anywhere we want, right? Anywhere that has an internet connection, you can live there and make games there. And that's that's rad. Like, that's not something that every industry has. A lot of industries are tied to a physical location for a specific reason, but we really have the opportunity to just, go anywhere and live anywhere, and that's super exciting. And it's something that when I realized it, I decided I wanted to try to make it work. So for the last 4 months, I've been freelancing, doing audio from my studio out. We're just south of Nanaimo in an area called Yellow Point, and these are just some of the things that I've found from living out there and working out there, and I just thought I'd share them with you guys. So abundant nature seems to be balancing the abundant computing, and what I mean by that is, like, you spend all this time on the computers. We all know that. That's our job. And when things are busy, you're on it all the time. It's really nice to be able to walk outside and have, quiet and birds and just nice things surrounding you, so that those small breaks that you do get for the time that you're not working, you have some sort of fulfilling kind of battery recharge from that, just because you're surrounded by inspiring beauty. That's what I've found so far anyway. Naturally, there's a more physical lifestyle when you live in rural areas. You gotta, keep the house warm and keep the land under control. So there's just a lot of random physical work, and that's the kind of thing that might scare some people, but I've found it incredibly rewarding, because it's such a nice balance to sitting and working at a computer. When you have to do these certain physical things every day, it just, you're not in a gym. You're lifting real things, not fake work. It's real work. So that's been awesome. And you learn a lot of new skills. There's a lot of things that we've all forgotten, or that our grandparents knew how to do, that we don't know how to do. And it's really humbling when you go out and try to live in an area like that, because you realize how many things we just have no idea how to do. Real tight-knit community. We found, at least where we are, there's less people, obviously, but people are very, very supportive of one another. And I think it just comes as necessity. When there's few people, you have to stay in constant contact with your neighbors. You have to really get to know people, and everyone kind of helps each other out. Everybody makes something and shares it, and they all make different things, and it's a really cool, different way to live. Obviously, there's awesome communities in a lot of cities too. It's just been it's been really different for us than compared to where we've lived before. And there's a lot of people, surprisingly, who have moved from the city and are now living out there. We keep meeting people that are our age that traded in their condo for a small house on an acreage, and a lot of them work in the film industry and tech industry, and they're basically doing the same thing. So that's cool, because there's people that you have something in common with. The cost of living obviously is way less. There's a 5-acre beautiful plot of land next to us right now that's for sale for like $150,000, which you know what that gets in Vancouver. So, and you're also not out drinking and eating at restaurants all the time like you tend to when you're in the city, and that kind of sucks because that stuff's fun. But you tend to make a lot more of your own stuff, and that saves money too. So all of that is good for indie developers. And the city's there when you need it. I'm here right now. It's just a ferry ride and some buses away. It's not like a big deal to go to the city for a weekend or a little while if you need to meet up with people, or if you just want to go to the city for a while. So this one's a big one. Unique inspiration. Art reflects the culture it was born from, and most games are made in cities. So this is something I've been noticing, and I'm hoping that it comes even more in the future. But what I mean by this is, think about country music as a genre. So the old kind of country music, like good country music before it became poppy. So that's a whole genre of art, and if you think about why that is, like, why is there a genre of country music? It's really comes from the fact that, people inject their environment and their culture into their art, right? And so the sound and the tone and the pacing and the lyrics of all that music came from people's day-to-day living in this, in this environment, this rural environment. And that's just made me think a lot about games, like most games are made in cities. So if I live in a rural environment, then is that going to eventually kind of inject a unique, kind of vibe into the games I make? I don't know, but I'm hoping that it will, and I'm already noticing a lot of my design inspiration is coming from things like plants, which is not something you usually get here. A couple negative things. Isolation can be tough, definitely in the winters. If you don't get yourself engaged in the communities and really make an effort to stay engaged, then you can just not see people for like weeks on end, and that can be pretty hard. And it's a tough job market for other family members, for people, unless they're a tradesperson or a nurse. It can be harder for other people in your family to find jobs. Restaurant variety is seriously lacking. That sucks. Other things I hope to find. So I have a kid on the way. I just found out a few months ago, which is exciting. And thank you. So all children now grow up from age 0 using iPads, and my child is going to be trained at Street Fighter from a very young age. So I wanted to live in a place that lets me kind of balance all of that with them being able to just get kicked outside to go, explore the ocean and the forest and the natural world, because I'm hoping that's the kind of childhood my kid's gonna have. So, and it also makes it easier for parents because you don't have to watch them all the time. I'm hoping. These are theories that I have. And I'm hoping also there's going to be a growing community of game and tech developers forming on the island and in other rural places. It seems like this is something that's more and more is happening the more I look into it. I know there's a bunch of developers kind of near me and a whole lot in Victoria, and it's something that we're just really hoping that more and more people will figure out, especially in the indie scene, and because I would love to have more people out there doing similar things so we can hook up and make some cool projects together. So that's about it. I had a little, to wrap it up, the point of all this is that the ever-present quest to find the work-life balance, in that quest, I think that rather than focusing entirely on the amount of time we spend working, because I personally just, it's kind of a foregone conclusion that there's going to be times of obsession when we're building these things, and I don't want that to go away. So I think it might be useful to think about the environment in which we're making games as well. And that's about it. That's my wedding cake again. Thanks.